it's Nicole from Heritage Acres, and I just wanted to do a quick little video on what I do when I first pick up the chicks that I've had shipped to me in the mail. Now, I've been raising guinea fowl this way for about 4 years now, and the first couple years that I was doing this, I unfortunately had a pretty high rate of fatalities with them. I lost probably 25% of them, and I wasn't really sure originally what I was doing wrong. And over the years, I've kind of tweaked it and honed my chick raising, so I know what I was doing wrong now, and I just wanted to share that information with you guys so that that same thing doesn't happen. So when you buy chicks in the mail, a lot of people wonder how they can make it through the mail for 2-3 days or so and survive. Don't they need food or water or anything like that? And typically the birds that are shipped, there's a minimum amount that you have to order because they need to be able to keep each other warm in the box. And then they're not shipped with any food or water or anything like that. Now, before you think that that's something that's cruel or awful, keep in mind that in nature, when mom is sitting on the nest, not all of the birds will hatch at the same time. If you've ever hatched eggs of your own, you might have 1 or 2 eggs hatch, and then over the period of about 36 hours, they'll all hatch. Now, the egg yolk that's in the eggs that we eat in the morning, but more importantly in the eggs that are being incubated, that egg yolk is the nutrition source for the chick. So as they grow, that's what they absorb. And once they hatch out, they actually have enough food and water stores from that egg yolk that they've absorbed that they don't need to eat or drink for up to 36 hours or 3 days. So that's why they can be shipped in the mail safely, just like mom in the nest should be sitting on all of the eggs for those first 3 days waiting for everybody to hatch, and then she would move all of the chicks off to go find food and water. She wouldn't just take the first chick that hatches and go take it to eat, because then the eggs would get cold and the other ones wouldn't hatch. So it's a relatively normal process. I've really have good luck with shipping them in the mail. I only have maybe 1 or 2 that don't make it in transit. That's kind of to be expected. In nature, not all of them survive either. It's just kind of one of those things. So that's kind of the background of the actual transit process. Now, this is my brooder, and this is probably not what you'll have at home. This is a 5-tier kind of commercial grade brooder. So the brooder box that you see now, there's actually 5 of them stacked on top of each other. So I raise a large number of chicks, usually a couple hundred each year, so I needed something that takes up a little floor plan and is really easy to clean and take care of. So that's why I have this. This is a GQF battery brooder. But you can incorporate some of the components that I have in this brooder in the brooder that you have at home. I imagine that the brooder that you have at home is probably something like a large Tupperware container, or maybe one of those puppy playpens. No matter the container, there's a couple important elements that you can see here that you can incorporate in your brooder at home. Now, the first most important part is you need to have a non-slick surface for the bottom. This surface that you see here is a pool liner. I was able to get some extra from the local Parks and Rec department, left over from a project that they had, and this is a really thick, non-slick surface that works great. I love it because it's really heavy, and I can take it out and rinse it off regularly, and I don't have to spend time and money switching out bedding, so that's super helpful. Now you can use something like pine shavings, don't use cedar. You could use shredded paper, some of the pelletized bedding. There's a bunch of different options. Just make sure that it's a non-slick surface, so don't just use newspaper. The problem is that their little legs aren't strong enough, so that slippery surface, they can't stand upright, and their legs will end up slipping out to the side, and it's something called splay leg, and it's fixable generally, but it's not fun. I definitely advise trying to avoid it instead of trying to fix it. Now, the other important part of a brooder is the heat. So for the first week of life, the birds need to be between 90 and 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, you can see in the back here, there's a heater that's on the wall, or I'm sorry, on the ceiling. And again, this is probably a bit of a different unit than what you would have, but your two options for a home brooder would either be a heat lamp or a brooder plate. Now, I can tell you that I've used heat lamps for years, just like anybody else. They're inexpensive, they're easy to find, you hang them up and go. But what I will also tell you is I would recommend avoiding them at all costs. I originally used the heat lamps because there was nothing else available, but now there's several different heat plate options. There's ones by Brincy, there's ones by Sweeter Heater, and a couple other ones that you can find either at your local farm supply store or online. Now, I will tell you that in my 10 years as a firefighter, I saw many people that burned down their chicken coops, burned down their entire garage, burned down their sheds because they used a heat lamp. So all I can tell you is from my experience, yes, they work, but please avoid them at all costs. So now that that's kind of the basics of the brooder, I'm getting ready to go get the chicks at the post office. They're actually at the post office now. It's about 7:30 in the morning. The post office doesn't open until 9, so I'm just getting everything ready. I started this brooder last night. I've been using this one for a couple years, so I'm pretty comfortable with it. But if you have a new brooder, I would start it maybe a day or two ahead of time and make sure that you can dial in the temperature. This one's set. All I have to do is plug it in, turn it on, and it's good to go. It's very reliable. So I turned it on last night just to make sure that everything was working well. I will add a side note real quick. If you are using a brooder plate, then you don't need to use a thermometer to check the temperature. Still start it up at least 12 hours ahead of time so that it can get warm. But those heater plates work on infrared heat and not ambient heat. So imagine you go outside on a cold morning, but the sun's rays warm your face. The ambient air is still cold, but that infrared radiant heat from the sun is warming your face. That's how those those brooder plate works. So, like I said, I'm getting ready to go pick up the chicks. Started this the night before, and other than dialing in the temperature and keeping the Keets off of pine shavings, because I learned this doesn't happen to me with chickens, with baby chickens, chicks, but with the guinea fowl, I found that they were eating the pine shavings and getting their crops impacted. So that's part of the reason also that I have this just flat shelf liner with nothing on it. That was the cause of a lot of the deaths that I had, but this relates to anybody. Put your waterer inside your brooder ahead of time so that it has a chance to get warm. And what I found was a huge help was this Rooster Booster vitamins and electrolytes. If you think about it, shipping is stressful. They're undoubtedly hungry, even though they're not towards the end of the 36 hours yet. They haven't had anything to drink. You want to give them water before you give them food. And to take that a step further, you want to give them warm water. Cold water will chill them, and as we all know, we need them to stay between 90 and 95 degrees. So warm water, and the way that I warm it is just by putting it in the brooder the night before, so it's the same temperature of the brooder. And I had the biggest success rate with my Keets after putting this vitamin and electrolytes in their water. Obviously, it really helps. And once I go get the birds in this next part of this video, I'll show you what you need to do. Unfortunately, you have to show each and every bird how to drink. That was another area that I found to be a fail point, and I'll talk more about that once we have the birds. But to summarize, preheat your brooder. Make sure it's between 90 and 95 degrees. Make sure that you have a non-slick surface, and if you're raising guinea Keets, something that they can't pick up and eat. So like this this pool liner or shelf liner or something like that, and your pre-warmed water with the electrolytes. Now, when I come back, I'll have the birds, so it'll be a little bit noisier, a little bit more chaotic, and then I'll show you how I put each individual bird into this brooder for the most success.